hope this bill will accomplish?
Well, I would like to first kind of stipulate, and I should really appreciate that we don't have just one omnibus bill with a lot of information in there where you kind of hate some, love some, and can never really decide what is the best vote to take, and you look how material, is it material good or bad? So I appreciate that this committee is filing 6 separate bills, and we can have 6 separate issues to debate. So I actually personally, still will stay open-minded, but I do not like a lot of provisions in other 5 bills. But the bill that I am working on is the bill actually that was passed by the Senate, and it was unanimously passed in the Senate Judiciary. I decided to be a lead sponsor on that bill because I believe the bill needs some work, and if we provide more resources to FTC to do a better job, really to dealing with bad apples and have it more user fee versus taxpayers funded, we also need to require more transparency and accountability from the FTC because they have been in a lot of, under different administration not doing their job very well. They have to be accountable to Congress, and I'm planning to make some amendments on Wednesday.
So had this bill existed, Congresswoman, how might the Facebook, Instagram, or Facebook, WhatsApp acquisitions have been different?
Well, I think, you have to actually, FTC, there is a function of FTC to review the merger. And actually, if you look at my bill, it doesn't just deal with big tech or particularly target any companies. It can apply to hospital monopolists, PBM monopolists. We have plenty of monopoly problem out there. But they have to start looking. Is some of the things created, concentrations of market allowed to have exercise monopoly powers? Are any of the players are exercising monopoly powers? And how we can have more effective tools of FTC dealing with that? Because nothing wrong with M&As and large companies. It's when they start using monopoly power to suppress consumer. Or is it fair that the companies, there is no protection of people's rights of information and privacy protection? Should they have this crazy terms of service that no one knows what data they collect about you, how they deal with the data, what are they doing? Is this really outrageous? So we have to have discussion and debate, but FTC can be useful or not.
Lina Khan has just been appointed to chair the FTC. She's been a vocal critic of big tech. What's your take on her appointment?
Well, I think, there are a lot of concerns from the Republican side, the way that she will be aggressively enforcing it. I personally think FTC shouldn't be aggressively enforcing. FTC should do its job to actually not pick losers and winners, but see where aggressive monopoly powers have to be checked against the little guy and consumer, and when they're using these monopoly powers. So I think that's why it's important not just give funding to FTC, but actually have more transparency, accountability to Congress. And we need to have this discussion. And my Republican colleagues have legitimate concerns because they feel maybe there is, that she will be very aggressive and unfair. But if we don't get involved with this process, she's going to do it anyway. So I feel if we engage and have the deliberation and debate, that we can make better legislation.
Now, Republicans and Democrats both seem to want action on big tech, but for very different reasons. Democrats want more moderation. Republicans are worried about infringement on free speech. Where do you think you can actually find common ground? And will you find common ground in order for there to be some movement?
Well, we have to, right? Because if we don't find common ground, nothing is going to happen, and we have some problems. If we have a technology companies be able to silence the president of the United States, it's a huge problem. It's a big power. If we have, hospital monopolies dictating the prices and hyperinflation of price we have in the country, it's a huge problem. And a lot of them are created by us government, created barriers of entry. But we need to have a discussion and functional FTC to have as a mechanism, and maybe for a different reason, we need to find some common ground to move forward, because if we don't deliberate, we're going to have a status quo. Nothing is going to change. And I think it's hurting the consumer. It's hurting the free enterprise. It's hurting the markets. Monopoly powers are not good, especially if they're abused, and as a country of free enterprise, it hurts the small businesses. We see that. I used to work with Fortune 500 America, and I understand the importance to have a healthy market, a healthy M&A, transactions, but a lot of them are getting less and less healthy, and FTC is not doing a job.
Right. Now, looking at big tech, I'd love to hear some specifics. If you think about companies as big as Apple and Google and Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, which of those companies or where do you see the best case for a possible breakup? Or is that not what you're looking for?
No, I'm not looking, some of my colleagues look in the breakup and everything else. I honestly think bottom-up approach is much better than top-down. I mean, top-down approach can work, and if that's something FTC should really make a case that, that needs to happen, because that would be the last resort. There are a lot of things in bottom-up approach where you can have portability of data, when you can have data protection, where you actually can let, these large players start playing by fair rules, because a lot of them suppressing the market and competition and little guy, so I think that will naturally allow more competition and naturally will evolve a more competitive market. That is my personal perspective. That's why I want to make sure that FCC is accountable and explain us what they're doing. So my bill is not looking. There are some other bills that believe in that approach. I would like to hear that debate. I personally not sold on that. I think bottom-up approaches work better than top-down.
So can you give us any more indication of the bills you're intending to introduce next week over FTC regulation?
Yes. There are 6 bills, and they deal a little bit different in a different ways. With some of them deal with data portability. Some of them actually look at the burden of proof related to merger and acquisitions. There are a variety of bills. I don't want to get into details. All of them will be debating them. And there are legitimate concerns. I personally said I have strong concerns with the rest of the bills, including even the bills that I'm introducing. I want to improve it too. Otherwise, if I don't, it's going to be passed like it is because it's passed in the Senate. But there are some good parts of, data portability. There are the other parts of the bill that I don't particularly like, in the interoperability of data. But I think portability is a good piece. But it's also, I don't like that it just applies to few companies. It should apply to everyone. We shouldn't just select few, criteria. It should apply to be constitutional. I truly believe that laws should apply to everyone.